Well, I'm Alex Garrett, and hope you're having a great evening tonight. And let me tell you, I've got a very cool friend on the line with me right now, Mr. David Alan Arnold. Good evening, friend. Hang on one second. Let me get you pop back in here. There we go. Good evening, friend. How are you?
With you again.
It is. Now, you have had, and I played something by a guy named Chris Hagen, Go on the Go. You were on the go with the president this past week at Mount Rushmore. You detailed it on Facebook, but if you haven't podcasted about it yet, feel free to tell us your story. You were 1,000 feet away from President Trump. Is that correct?
I was. I have flown over, in 25 years of flying cameras, I have flown over 3 different presidents. But this is the first time that I've ever been in an aircraft flying with the president when he's in Air Force One and Marine One. And it was an awesome experience.
I can only imagine. What was he like in Air Force One? Obviously, you didn't talk to him, but you could see his mannerisms. What was he like about to do this huge event?
My experience of President Trump is that he is a consummate showman. People probably have forgotten, but I haven't. Before he was president, President Trump was an executive producer
Mm-hmm.
of one of the top rated NBC primetime shows for 12 years. And so my experience of being at one of his events is that he brings that level of
Mm-hmm.
entertainment to everything he does. And just my personal opinion, I think that's why he's on the front page of every newspaper. It's why he's in every 24-hour news broadcast, is
Well, David, let's
because
no, let's talk about that for a minute.
he,
There's no doubt why he's president, right? The medium gave all this coverage to begin with.
yeah, it's true. And so having now flown with him at one of his events, I was just really struck by how well put together everything is. And when Air Force One came in and flew around the monuments at Mount Rushmore, the airplane went around twice. We got 2 really good looks at it on live TV. And I know a lot of the networks were feeding that footage
Mm-hmm.
because they knew he was going to give a speech there. And so then he got into his helicopter so that he could actually fly and land at the monument. And before he landed, he flew around the Mount Rushmore monuments, but then also went to Crazy Horse, which for us was
Sure.
about 10 minutes away. So he flew a distance over there so he could see the Crazy Horse monument under construction, and then come here and
David,
land.
that
And
that crazy horse is based with Teddy Roosevelt, isn't it? Or am I got my history wrong there?
it's a monument to Crazy Horse, so it's similar to Mount Rushmore that's being built as we speak. And so he went with Marine One. He flew around it to take a
Wow.
look at it, and it's just really cool. And so to watch all of the how it works when he lands his helicopter, how the Marines greet him, how the Secret Service moves in with his motorcade. It was
Mm-hmm.
just so cool to witness that from our airplane, which was circling at that time about 2,000 feet above him. And just really cool to witness all that.
So you were not on the ground with him at Mount Rushmore, or were you?
No,
You were in the air.
no, I never went to Mount Rushmore on the ground for a week leading up to the event. We had meetings
Mm-hmm.
with all of the aircraft pilots because the Blue Angels flew there. They had B-1 bombers, they had Black Hawk
Wow.
helicopters, they had Air Force One, they had Marine One. So all of these different pilots and organizations would be in these meetings, and it was just a really cool thing. It's not every day you get to be in a
No.
meeting like you and I are having, but except instead of me and you, it's the pilots of the Blue Angels, it's the pilots of Air Force One, it's the
Wow.
Secret Service, the pilots of Marine One. Just really amazing to be around the caliber of people who make all
Mm-hmm.
of those things happen, one aircraft to the next.
David, I gotta quickly tell a story. So the day we met President Clinton, my dad and I met President Clinton. They had to get us, and I was about 8 or 9 years old. They still had to get me checked. They had to get my dad checked by the Secret Service, by the cathedral. And yet that moment happened. So I know exactly what you're talking about when you're dealing with them. And the Secret Service have always been nice to my dad and I. And, we got to thank them. They've been around for a long time.
That's so cool.
In and of itself. David, you're an Emmy Award winning cinematographer. But I get the feeling all those awards doesn't top what you just witnessed on July 3rd, the day before Independence Day.
Oh, I loved it. I was like a kid at Christmas. It was just such a neat thing to be involved with. But tell people the story of your meeting with President Clinton, because I've seen pictures of that, but I've never heard the story of how it happened or what you guys talked about or what the deal was.
Sure. Well, really quickly, we knew Cardinal O'Connor from when I was a little kid. I think you've seen pictures like when I was really little. 1998 comes around. He says, hey, he started to get sick in 98. Says, hey, can you pray for me? I think it was 98, maybe 99. Can you pray for me? He gives me his rosary. I start praying. I have the rosary. My dad has it. Then we saw him one more time up in the Bronx, Cardinal O'Connor, at something like a Little Sisters for the Poor kind of event. And it was up in the Bronx. It was an amazing hot day. And he said hello. And then when he passed away, we've heard about it, obviously. We wandered to the cathedral. They had told us to come in. We got cleared by the Secret Service, the cathedral. I was a little tired because I was about 8 or 9. So literally, New York One has the camera on me sleeping during the service, the actual ceremony of the funeral. But then when it came for the peace, I literally looked over to Bill Clinton, the president of the United States at the time. I wished him a peace. He waved back. After the funeral, after they took his casket, Cardinal's casket, downstairs to the vault, Clinton walks around the pew. And he literally walks up to me and says, hey, how are you, buddy? And we took these pictures, and it just became history. It became newspaper. The funny thing, though, is I remember him saying, how are you, bud? I don't really remember getting the picture taken. I just remember that moment. But then I remember getting all these questions outside of St. Patrick's Cathedral on the steps, running back and forth. Hey, Pop, they want to interview me. Can I go? He's like, yeah, go. And so I'm on all these networks. And then I get back into regular life. And regular life that day on May 8th, 2000 was quite incredible. I used to hang out with a friend of mine who was a skateboarder. I started rollerblading at the time. He and his family see me on Fox 5, and they're like, yeah, we saw you at the Cardinal's funeral. I kind of shook it off because I want to go back into being a kid. I'm 8 years old. I still want to have a kid life. And then my mom, that night, gets calls from UPN, My 9 now here in New York, and CBS 2, Vince Dimitri. So I'm in the lobby of my apartment doing interviews about President Clinton hugging me. So that was my day. And as you know, I also know President Trump before he was President Trump.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, well, Regis Philbin and Donald Trump would actually be up in George Steinbrenner's suite for multiple games, playoff games. Trump takes this picture of Regis Philbin and I, and it ends up on Regis's show the next day because, he's like, Trump took this terrible picture. It looks awkward. How can you take... He just starts going off on Trump. It was hilarious. You can find this video on Instagram, by the way, Alex G in NYC.
Oh, I never knew that story.
And so I knew him there. And then President Trump, when he had Barron, actually, was in the suite a few days after his birth. Happy as a father, a newborn born. He's happy as a father, new father. He puts out his hand to shake my hand and my dad's hand with this huge smile. And I just knew President Trump was kind of not who they portray him to be on the media just by those experiences. And I know you've been a fighter for him. So I have to believe your hard work and fighting for him got you on that plane this past week. I've got to believe it.
Who knows? I mean, I don't really think, people probably think I'm politically opinionated. Mm-hmm. I don't really think one way or another about any of the presidents. I imagine that if I got to meet President Obama or President Clinton or President Trump, that they would just be awesome to talk to.
Right.
So what was Bill Clinton like to talk to when he was president?
I don't know. I was 9 years old, and there's another story to this, which I don't know if many people know. 2001 happens, 9/11. My birthday, October 20th, 2001. There's a playoff game up in Yankee Stadium. 5 days earlier, George Steinbrenner says, owner of the Yankees, George Steinbrenner says, because I mentioned him. I was a little kid. I said, "Listen, Mr. S, my birthday's coming up on October 20th. We were going to play the Mariners, and we do." He said, "All right, we'll have a birthday cake ready for you." Sure enough, third inning comes around. I go upstairs with my dad. A birthday cake is waiting for me from George Steinbrenner, the owner of the Yankees, who's won all these World Series, and yet he took the time to give me a cake.
And that's the best thing I've heard all day. I love that story.
It was his birthday actually on July 4th, and I recalled some of these stories on my podcast on Saturday, which you could check out. But you wouldn't believe it. Who comes in on October 20th, because the Freedom Concert was at Madison Square Garden that night, but Bill Clinton. And he walks right up to me again. He we remembered each other from like a year and a half earlier. So that was a little extension of what happened at the Cardinals' funeral. So
yeah, but that's pretty cool that he remembered you, because he meets a lot of people.
He did, and it was a moment that. And then in 2008, for all the grief we give Hillary, when she became Secretary of State, she actually helped open up the cathedral, St. John the Divine. I don't know if you remember, but they had a fire in St. John the Divine on Christmas. Actually, this was crazy. Christmas 2001. They have this fire. It takes about 7 years for them to rebuild. They have partitioned off part of the cathedral to keep working on it every Easter, to the point where you'd have to listen to the service on a speaker on Easter Sunday. This was true. Well, the grand reopening of the cathedral, Hillary Clinton's there. She just became Secretary of State. I walk up to her and congratulate her because they were nice to us, and I wanted to be nice. And I would be nice to anybody. I agree with you. Sure. Obama probably is a good guy. Clinton was a good guy. All these Democratic presidents probably were good people. And I just wish people would think Trump's a good person, just like we give Democratic leadership the benefit of a doubt of being a good person in person. You know what I mean? But I sense we don't see Trump given that benefit of doubt, which is terrible in my opinion. But no, Hillary was very gracious. She gave me this huge smile, and so I have the connection with the Clintons, and I think that's why it's very surprising, even to me to this day, that I don't go the Clinton way. But I've kind of grown up, and I know they would not be, just like Biden would not be the best answer right now.
Well, what was Hillary like to talk to?
Very cordial. She did her usual laugh, her fun laugh, and she was very cordial. In fact, let me see if I can pull this up. This was incredible, because I'm sure you've seen these pictures before. It's amazing every time I still see them how impactful they feel to me. Let's see what we got. But there's a picture of her leaning in front of. Here we go. This picture of her literally leaning in front of me. I guess I could share it this way. Hold on. Literally leaning in front of me. It's her, Hillary Clinton, leaning in front of me. For those on the podcast. Oh my
goodness!
Saying hello. So there you go, David. It's been quite a life and quite a career, really, on all this. So I'm glad that I was able to share that with you.
Well, tonight. you might be the only person I know that's talked to that many presidents. That's really cool.
So let's get back to you. So did you stay at the ceremony at Mount Rushmore, or did you cover the fireworks overview? What was your role after the speech?
No, because the fireworks were an hour after we stopped flying. And the plan was throughout the week, we kept having the meetings with the Blue Angels, with the pilots of Air Force One. And the plan was for all of the aircraft, including us, to depart at about 8:30. And that's about an hour before the fireworks. However, it's not too unusual because, when they start giving speeches after President Trump lands at the monument, they may not want our airplane flying over his head the whole time. So it kind of made sense that they would bring us back too. And so about an hour later, just after dark, was when the fireworks started. So we were driving from Rapid City Airport back to our hotel, and we could see the fireworks erupting over Mount Rushmore. What's cool about that is they haven't had fireworks at Mount Rushmore in 10 years.
I heard some about that, and because they were going to have, it was like a tradition for a long time, wasn't it?
It was, and they had to stop doing it because they had a drought, and
Oh,
they were having fire. It was too much of a fire danger. So this 4th of July with President Trump was the first time that they had done fireworks there in 10 years. And so all of the people who lived there knew about it. They were excited to see the fireworks again. And it was a really cool thing.
David, I think you also resonate with him because you feel like I mean, you do have this showman look. You've got the Indiana Jones look everywhere you go. And we've talked about it before, the hat, the get up. I mean, you've really embraced that is your signature image.
Well, I definitely can understand how Trump uses even bad press to his advantage. And, on my Facebook, I love to post political questions of whatever Trump is doing. Or, I mean, one of my, it was 2017. Trump had been in office for a year, and I put a picture of President Trump on my Facebook, and I just wrote underneath it, "Is Trump the best TV president ever, or what?" And a year later, people were still writing comments on that picture. And the last time I looked at it, it had 3,000 comments. And so I definitely, I guess, in a little bit of the way Trump does, I don't fear controversy.
No, you don't.
I'm happy to talk about any topic that interests me. And I love to bring up topics like President Trump that people are very emotional about. And like I said, it might surprise you to learn I don't have a huge opinion of him up or down, but I love to hear what people think. And I love the fact that Trump gets people excited, either in a good or a bad way. He gets people so energized to get involved, and in the case of Facebook, to write a comment and then to write another comment. And so I like stuff like that gets people talking and, kind of gets their juices flowing.
David, your home state, California, seemed to be maybe veering into the red because I saw all these fireworks going off in LA this past weekend, and people use that as a sign that maybe California is going to go red. Is that a possibility with everything going on this year?
I think California going red is inevitable. It might be unthinkable today because it's been so blue for so long, but as the Democrat leadership of California does crazier and crazier and crazier things that cause people to suffer, I think they make it inevitable that there will be a huge shift away from them. And just for an example is the coronavirus. We've had very few coronavirus deaths in California. And yet for 3 months, the governor of California has kept 40 million people locked down, unable to go to work. Basically, it's a government imposed economic depression that affects everyone. Even the so-called essential people suffer because if you work for Los Angeles or if you work for a county where taxpayers have not been allowed to work for 3 months, there's no money for the county budget in the next year. So even essential people are getting now laid off because of this. And meanwhile, it's an entirely healthy population. You could look at the numbers any way you want to, but there's no question that the coronavirus has been very survivable. You could argue that it's worse than the flu, but it's definitely in the same category. And yet they've never told churches that they can't be open during flu season. They've never told 40 million people that they're not allowed to leave their home and go to work unless they're so-called essential.
Then you've also got the story of these council members and the LA City Council saying, well, we don't want police, but we're going to have the guards for ourselves anyway. I mean, it's like Snowball and Napoleon. They fatten themselves up, but they don't want the people to be protected.
Well, I mean, it is an incredible thing that in a place like California, you're not allowed to own guns, and they're defunding the police at the same time. It was quite, a lot of eyebrows got raised in Los Angeles when they locked down the entire population of California. Everyone in Los Angeles was stuck in their homes, not allowed to leave. And they closed gun stores. So
well, there was such a debate. There was such a debate on that too, wasn't there, about whether to shut it down or not?
I don't know if it was a debate. I think it was a lot of people just flabbergasted that the government was imposing such craziness on the citizens, and at the same time they weren't being allowed to buy guns to defend themselves. I mean, that was an incredible thing to watch, to hear them talk about defunding the police. And my favorite thing that my Democrat friends always say is, well, defunding the police doesn't mean defunding the police, which if you want to get yourself sucked into the world's worst argument, say that to me, because I will run circles around you, and I will take the time to talk through what you just said. It's, and then I'll also be happy to pull up the politicians who are defunding the police, who have not only said that they are in fact defunding the police, but that they want the police dismantled. So when you ask if California might go red, first of all, I'm not a Republican. Okay. I don't even have a dog in this hunt, but I believe it's inevitable just because of stuff like that. If you're telling the people that they can't own guns to defend themselves and that the police are going to be defunded, well, who's going to answer the 911 calls? And everyone's watching this. This isn't, you can tell me that defunding the police doesn't mean defund the police, but everyone's watching this happen. It is what it is. For
David,
3 to 4 months.
I'm sure you're very relieved you got to do Deadliest Catch before all this craziness went down, right? I mean, you probably were very relieved to get that working.
Well, I just, it's like a storm that has come upon us. And, if you lock me in my house, there's plenty I can do. I'm writing my 3rd book. So these cards that you see on the wall are for my 3rd book. There's plenty that I can do. I've been recording my audiobooks during downtime. Cool. I can certainly, keep myself busy. But this has just been like a plague, like a biblical plague that has been pushed onto the shoulders of the little people, the working class people. And I mean, people who live paycheck to paycheck, it's most of us. And so to see that kind of crazy, crushing, just horrible, like prison sentence put down on the average working person who did nothing wrong. Right. And then they turn on the news and they see that the prisons are now being emptied of criminals in the name of coronavirus. So when you ask if California might turn red, I say the more of those things that they do, the more they guarantee it will happen.
I wonder if New York's going to turn red sometime again, because I think we're tired of our leadership here as well. Hey, David, what's also going on in your neck of the woods out there is this cancel culture has hit people like Ellen DeGeneres, has hit people like Jimmy Kimmel and Oprah Winfrey. I mean, is there a correlation to that? Is there something underneath all this that we're not knowing about, why these people are being canceled?
Yeah, karma.
Okay.
So if you're part of the cancel culture, it's just a matter of time before they get to you. And, Jimmy Kimmel has been hyper political. And didn't he declare that like Trump voters were some kind of horrible, deplorable people or something?
Well, that was Hillary. She called us half deplorable,
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel did it too. And I don't remember his exact words, but, he's talking about half of his audience probably.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
So when that snake turns around and bites Jimmy Kimmel, it is what it is. And it's karma. It's comical. It's ironic. But if you support people being canceled, it's just a matter of time before someone cancels you.
Wow, that is so true. Hey, David, I know that you won't ever be canceled, but I gotta ask, how is it you can post so fearlessly about Trump? And do you think it's that honesty you have that leads people to want you to still work, because at least you're not being a sugarcoater, at least you're being honest with your feelings on it?
I would say that's how I live. I live that way. So, the first question people always ask is, why do I do dangerous things?
Mm-hmm.
And, my second book, I took on an organized crime ring that had set up shop at a school bus stop. And that's not a smart thing to do. And it's a risky thing to do, but it is how I choose to live. I believe that life is very short. None of us are guaranteed another sunrise. And so do I want to look back on today and say, oh man, I really should have done the right thing, or I really should have spoken the truth. No, I prefer to live exactly how I want to live every day that I'm alive. And if that means speaking the truth on Facebook, it means speaking the truth on Facebook.
That's right.
I think as far as my political views, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I love the topic of Donald Trump. I think it's the best topic there is. But I don't really have a huge opinion up or down for Democrats or Republicans. And I'm always happy to bring up any subject. If it's controversial and people feel strongly about it, a lot of Democrats know that they
David,
can only talk about these topics on my Facebook because nobody else will bring it up and nobody will ever argue with them the way I do.
Right.
So,
and they love it. They live for that every day. David, I got to ask you this too, and got to give you a shout out. Not only do you post reviews, you're a very thankful person. Like almost every post, you tag people and say thank you for your support. And I never really see anybody else do that on our feeds.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I, to be honest with you, I think people don't understand social media. And I think that, this is such a precious moment in the history of the human race, that you and I have the power to reach millions of people with our phone.
Yeah.
And free apps on our phones. And most, that's never happened before. And most people don't have the social skills. I now have, this may shock my Facebook friends, I now have over 400,000 followers on different social media. And
awesome, man.
Thank you. And I can assure you that most people don't have the social skills to talk to 400,000 people. And it's not necessarily easy, but it's an incredible time to be alive. Because, one of the reasons that I'm on social media, the reason I have 400,000 followers is because of that organized crime ring. These are people who get away with murder, and I watch them do it. And they did it at a school bus stop. And for whatever reason, I came across this and I wasn't willing to let go of it. And I didn't until things were set right. And that's why I'm on social media, is because I know that the bigger crowd I draw, the more support I will have to set things right in a situation like that. And I don't quit. I never give up.
You never quit. No.
I never lose sight of that goal. And from the second I saw criminal activity at the school bus stop, I knew that I wouldn't quit until it was gone. And I knew that it would be gone and I would still be there. And so social media and having a huge crowd of people who become aware of the story by reading my books, and willing to make a statement about it, call their congressmen, call the FBI, say that these things should be set right and that no children should ever have to suffer that kind of criminal behavior at a school bus stop. That's a goal that I'll hang on to until I get it. And social media gives all of us the power to right wrongs like that.
And I think you're doing a great job. Speaking of social media, where can people find the video of you atop Mount Rushmore? Because I think you posted a link, didn't you?
You can find it on YouTube. So if you can find me on any social media, just look for my name, David Alan Arnold. If you go to my YouTube, you'll see the president's airplane flying around Mount Rushmore. You'll see the Blue Angels. If you go to whatever you like, if you like Instagram, I'm on Instagram. If you like Twitter, I'm on Twitter. If you like Facebook, I'm on Facebook. And most of those platforms, you just look for my name, David Alan Arnold, ALAN, and you can find that stuff.
So what can we do to use our platform even better than we are right
I think, speaking the truth is the most powerful thing, and it's what draws a crowd. You talk about Hollywood. I
Yeah.
guarantee you there are people in Hollywood who are drawn to me simply because I say the truth. I'm not rude to people.
You're not.
I don't pull any punches about politics or political correctness, but I'm always very kind to people, and I speak the truth. And people crave that. So over the years, the people,
Yeah.
if I got 3,000 comments about President Trump on my Facebook picture that I posted, half of those are from Democrats, and half of those Democrats are closer to me today than they were 2 years ago when I posted
That's
that
amazing.
picture.
That's
And
amazing.
and I find that over time, there was one Democrat friend of mine who on Facebook, he kept posting swastikas in his comments about Trump. And I warned him repeatedly. I said, that's the only thing I don't let on my Facebook is you can say your opinion, but I can't let you post swastikas on my Facebook because, 10 million people were murdered under that flag.
Right.
And
Correct.
he kept doing it. So I blocked him. And he has since then, he has sought me out on other social media because I don't know if it's that no one ever argues with him about politics or no one ever says certain things that he knows are true. It's just weird how someone who would appear to be your enemy politically would actually be drawn to you over the years. And so that guy comments regularly on my Instagram posts, and he asks questions, and I'm glad he's there, and it kind of saddens me that he's not on my Facebook anymore.
Hey, David, what do you think it is that bring Democrats closer to you and are able to break through and have that dialogue with you? What is it that you do that others could do too?
Oh, I don't know if I have any advice on that. I just live the way I live. Like I said, I'm not a Democrat, not a Republican. There's plenty of arguments on my Facebook over political stuff.
A lot. Yep. I've seen
but
it.
I treat everyone like human beings. If I see something's wrong, if I see people, burglarizing and burning people in the streets, I'm going to say so. And I don't care if that, affects your politics, or what's even more likely is I'm going to ask you a question about it.
Hey, David, I think your fans want to know, and I don't know if I've ever asked you this. How did you get into flying and doing what you do today? Like it's not only your love, it's your passion, it's your job, but it's also something you really are loving too. So how'd you get into flying?
I got into flying because when I got out of high school, I skipped college, and I just started working. And at the time, I lived in a small town in Florida, but I knew that I wanted to work in entertainment, television and film. And so I went to any company in my little town that had anything to do with television or film. And I would knock on their doors about every 2 weeks, and I would offer to work for free.
Wow.
And one of those companies said, "Will you please quit coming around here? You don't work here. Quit coming here and offering to work." And I said, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry." And I scratched that company off my list. I won't bother you guys again. And 3 weeks later, the vice president of that company called me. And
Unbelievable.
he called me. And I guess he had heard about this crazy kid who kept coming to the building, even though he doesn't work here, and asking for work. And so he gets on the phone and he goes, "Listen, one of my guys is quitting, so I got to hire someone." And he goes, "I could hire someone from Hollywood or New York, from the movie business with a long credit resume. But he said, I like local people." And he said, he asked me a bunch of questions. I was just this crazy puzzle to him of who was this crazy kid who kept knocking on their door every 2 weeks and offering to work for free. And he said, would you like to interview for this job? I said, "Sure, let's do it." And that was when I found out that, unbeknownst to me, his company had changed and had become specialized to only do helicopter cameras.
Wow.
And I didn't know that about them. And so for me, aviation was this crazy, scary thing. I had no interest in it. But he offered to let me interview for the job, and I thought about it, and I thought, well, yeah, okay, I'll do it, and it still looked scary to me, but I was willing to try it. And I just decided I would go to work there and work really hard and not complain. and put my best foot forward. And I did. And what I found was that even at a company like that, that's very technical, if you don't even know what you're doing, but you're nice to people and you work hard and you don't complain. I once, in my first year, I once slept in a cargo truck. Someone at the company had screwed up the shipping. So they had sent the equipment to the wrong state or something like that. So next thing I know, I'm in the back of a cargo truck. Picture a cube truck full of shipping cases. And I'm sitting on top of the shipping cases, and we're literally driving across the country. And we drove all night. We got there. The door rolled up. I took the cases out. I built the equipment and got everything ready. And the equipment broke. So I, soldered wires and fixed everything and got everything ready so that they could have their shoot on time, even though the shipping had been totally screwed up. And at the end of that shoot, one of the producers came over and he said, David, we've been talking about you, and we want you to know that we have these areas in our company, our production company, that you could work. You could work for us doing this. You could work for us doing that. And I mentioned that to my boss. I said, would you believe they offered me a job? And he goes, yeah, I know. And I go, what do you mean? We had this huge catastrophe. The shipping was all screwed up. Everything got delayed. All these problems. Even the camera broke, when I tried to build it. And he said something that took my breath away. And he goes, Dave, they know that you worked all night to make this show happen, and you didn't say a word to anyone. And he said, listen, everything they do breaks around here. Everything goes wrong. He said what they want are people who won't complain, who won't bitch about that the shipping got screwed up and it's not your fault, but who will simply pitch in and fix it or make it better and do the best you can and not complain and make a big stink over it. And he said that's what they want to have around them year after year while they're making all these movies and TV shows and stuff.
David, I think every company—
that was how I started flying.
Every company wants that, though. Someone who will be able to just work and not have that complaining gene. You still get the butterflies, though, when you go up in an aircraft like this, in a helicopter or whatever you might fly?
It is always an adventure. It is always a spectacular, breathtaking adventure, whether we're flying next to the president while he circles Mount Rushmore in his 747, or whether I'm in a helicopter hovering next to the crab boats as they're crashing through storm waves on the Deadliest Catch. It's always an incredible adventure of a lifetime every day that I go to work.
That is beautiful. And I got to ask you one other update, because I know you were vocal about it. You actually had people chip in. How's your son doing? How's that whole thing gone? How's your relationship with him? It's going really well. The one great thing about them locking down California is they closed all the schools. So it is, I'm sure my son will never forget this year as long as he lives, because we've literally been together every day that I have him. And so they're talking about canceling next year's school as well, where he goes to school, and doing online only. And I couldn't be more thrilled, because we just spend so much time together. And in answer to your question, I had posted on Facebook that I was having an issue and I was being dragged into court and told I couldn't see my son anymore. And we got a great outcome in court. The judge left everything as is, said I could still have time with him. And I'm always pushing for, I want equal time with my little one. And that's all I've ever asked for. But life is very good right now. How old is he now?
He's 10 years old. Oh
yeah, that's a great age to mold him into the man I guess you want him to be. So
well, we've talked all this stuff about work. That's my favorite job to this day. It's literally my favorite job, is being a dad, and I just live for it. And I love every second that my son and I spend together. And it's just it is the most rewarding part of my life. And it just makes me so happy
I just love every second. I've never, my son is 10 years old. I've never missed a day with him. There's never anything that I would rather do than spend a day with my little one.
David Alan Arnold, I am very grateful that we are friends. I love our connection. I think we sync up on a lot of different things, and it's cool when we talk. It's like just that synchronicity, that spark is there in this friendship, and I really love that.
God bless you. I love your energy, and I always enjoy all the stuff that you post on social media, and I love all your pictures of just traveling around New York City. I mean, you're basically my news of New York.
Wow.
Is the things that you tell me and the things that you post on social media that show me the daily life of New York City.
I try to. Anyway, that's one of my favorite parts of the city. Hey, David, man, I love you, brother, and we will talk.
Yeah, I love you too.
And
thank you so much.
Let's do this again, all right?
Anytime. Thank you so much. I always enjoy talking to you, and God bless you with everything you're doing and all of your positive energy. I'm a big fan of yours, and I wish you Godspeed.
Well, thank you so much, David. I am Alex Garrett, and we will talk to you soon.